TechBeat, where leaders learn, innovate, and grow. I am your host, Earl Foote, founder and CEO of Nexus IT. Nexus IT is a managed IT, a cybersecurity and cloud services firm based here in northern Utah and servicing a nationwide footprint. We're happy to have you with us today. I'm joined by my guest, Landon Taylor, CEO of Snowball, who I'll come back around and introduce here in a moment. Glad to have Landon in studio with us today. Let's see. I wanted to, make sure everybody knows that TechBeat is on all major podcast platforms. Go check us out on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Google, Pandora, wherever you like to get your podcasts. Subscribe to us. We'd appreciate that. You can listen to us at the gym or in the car or wherever you want to, listen to all these fantastic entrepreneurial and growth hacks of, great founders that we feature on the show. If you have questions throughout the show, feel free to post those on whatever platform you're joining us from. We'll try to keep up with some of those or get to some of them at the end. Outside of that, I want to welcome Landon into the studio officially today. Landon is the CEO and founder of Snowball. He's been a bootstrapped entrepreneur for over 14 years, having built and sold 2 businesses prior to Snowball. Landon lives with his wife, Kelsey, and their 5 kids and their dog in Alpine, Utah. Landon, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on today.
Yeah, thanks, Earl. Good to be here.
We talked a little bit before the show. I'm glad, that you're here in studio with us. You and I have not had the pleasure of meeting, which is a little bit surprising, because, you've been, you've had a long career spanning over, a decade. I'm 2.5 decades in, and you meet kind of the majority of, people around town, right? Over time. We really haven't overlapped each other, so I'm glad to have you here. Glad to have you here to tell your story a little bit today and tell a little bit about the things you've learned in your career along the way. Let's start with Landon Taylor, the guy, the kid, the teenager, the college student. Go back to wherever you want to go back to, and just tell us a little bit about where you grew up, how you grew up. Maybe when you got exposed to business and entrepreneurship and, where that all kind of started for you.
Yeah. Awesome. And I can't, in your introduction, you mentioned listening to this in the gym. I can just envision somebody, cut off shirt, pumping iron, listening to this and getting pumped up. So hopefully it does that for them, right? If they're listening to it. So going back, so I grew up in California, and then when I was about 8, we moved to Alpine, Utah. And like you said, my wife and I and our 5 kids and our dog live in Alpine right now. I went to high school at Lone Peak, and, my first kind of exposure to entrepreneurship and the rigors of running a business was from my dad. My dad was a general contractor for 30 plus years. And this will actually kind of come full circle into why Snowball and what's kind of a motivating factor to Snowball. So general contractor, 30 plus years for anybody who runs their own business, general contractor, it's a grind, right? You not only have to be the chief customer acquisition specialist, you also have to be the chief production specialist, right? And do the work. And I remember I'd go to jobs with my dad, and he wouldn't have me do much, right? Probably intentionally, because I'd probably screw it up. So I'd help him, I'd hang sheetrock and, screw in the sheetrock and help do demo work and stuff. But I got a sense from my dad that the value he saw in creating something. And after a job was done, whether it was a house he built or a roof he put on or a bathroom he remodeled or whatever, he'd always drive past after it was done. And you could see this gleam in his eye of, I built that. Yeah. And I got the sense of man, I want to build something. I want to create something. Yeah. And I think I'm a strength of mine is being a team player. So it's not that I don't want to have a boss. Right. I don't want to be a follower. I think it's just more that desire to create something and have a challenge always in front that I'm going after. So it started with my dad, went to high school, loved sports. So I played most of the sports in high school, was always a part of a team, right? Going back to when I was, 8 years old. And so got that exposure, being a part of a team, having a coach, going through adversity, things like that. And then I went on a 2-year mission to Mozambique, Africa for the LDS church. Wow. Learned to speak Portuguese. Okay. And, at the age of 19, that was kind of a wake-up call to one, a lot of people don't live like we live, right? There's different parts of the world
Yeah.
And there's different poverty levels that people
Wait,
are going through.
I don't follow my geography well enough these days. I was a geography whiz. Like
Yeah.
I went to state championships in geography in junior
That's
high,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
Mozambique is no longer Mozambique, right? Does
So
it exist?
it is still Mozambique.
Oh, it
so
is,
if you think about the Madagascar,
Yeah.
right on the
Yeah.
south eastern tip of Africa,
yeah.
it's right
Above
across
South Africa.
the water, right across
Yeah,
the
yeah.
channel from
Okay,
Madagascar.
okay.
It's a long strip on the east coast of Africa.
I was thinking because there's so many of those countries that have had name changes, you know. But yeah, okay. So Mozambique still exists.
Still exists.
as Mozambique.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was there from 2003 to 2005, and you know, yeah, good experience, right? You learn rejection, you learn how to work with other people, and live away from home, and so then I came back and actually met my wife, and we got married fairly young.
Yeah.
I was 20. Let's see, I was 21, and she was just turning 19. Had our first kid a year and a half into marriage.
Yeah.
So things got moving quick.
Yep.
And
Been there.
yeah. So it's you kind of just learn on the job, right? And it's sink or swim. Right?
Yep.
You dive in, and you just go. And so at that point, you know, we're looking at like 2005-ish. I started, you know, I was always ambitious. I felt that I wanted to, you know, I had a family now, so I had to earn for my family. And so we went out and did the door-to-door sales.
Yep.
So I went out and knocked doors for a summer.
It's a good, proper Utah County thing to do.
It is. Yeah, me and everybody else in Utah County, right?
Yeah.
Went out and knocked doors.
And those young early 20s, you know, those summer sales gigs, you know, you make good money at it. And
you do, and it's
learn
not
good
easy.
skills.
Yeah, it's not easy. You learn rejection, and you know, we did it for one summer. And then I got into a sales job in athletic performance for a couple of years. And then at one point got introduced to digital marketing in 2010. 2008, to work for a guy named Brady Whittingham, who was starting his own affiliate network and affiliate marketing company, and learned on the job there. So got thrown into digital marketing. And then, you know, that kind of got me started.
Yeah. All right. So, by the way, our backgrounds are not too dissimilar. My dad, he was an electrician. He started as an apprentice electrician at the age of 18, worked his way at the same company over 45 years. You know, the last 12 or 15 years, he was COO of that company.
Okay,
So, you know, at the time it was the largest electrical contractor in Utah, called Wasatch Electric. They're no longer the largest, you know, Cash and Hunt, and, you know, those have surpassed them. And they sold to a national firm, and then sold to a firm out of Scotland. I grew up around the trades.
Yeah.
I grew up like you, pulling wire, you know, on the weekends with my dad, you know, because that was, you know, he would, even when he was, you know, superintendent and, you know, a leader and then an executive, you know, making ends meet with a family of 6.
Yeah.
I was the youngest of 6, right? You know, he'd always pick up little, you know, rewire jobs, you know, remodels and stuff like that. So I remember, man, and even just like if somebody was remodeling a job, we'd go pull wire out of a house and go sell the copper, right? Because copper was worth enough back then. Like it was worth, you know, our time. So like my dad and my brother grew up with 4 sisters and a brother, you know, and you know, my dad and my brother, you know, he'd take us on the weekends. We'd go pull wire out of a house that was going to be demoed or renoed, you know, and I remember like, I mean, we'd fill up the back of his truck with copper. We'd go to, I don't remember where we'd go, somewhere to sell it, you know, and
That's
it
awesome.
was, I don't know, he'd get $300 or something, you know, but it was worth the time, you know, and he would always give us, you know, $20 or something, you know, like that.
For all we know, we did business together, right? Maybe some of the demo work I did, the copper ended up with you.
Yeah, totally. Who knows?
For all we
right?
know. You know?
Totally possible. Yeah. So man, I think that, you know, there are a few ways to learn work ethic, you know, than to be around the trades as a kid. So I have deep respect for, you know, for tradesmen and just, you know, I mean, that sector of our economy and how important it is. We actually have a lot of clients, you know, in that sector, you know, the
and I feel like I do need to give credit to my mom too. My mom passed away in 2010.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But when my dad was starting his business, she was the breadwinner. So when we moved to Alpine, she was selling water rights.
Oh.
To this day, I don't even know how that works, to be honest with you. I think it's something to do with like certain land has rights to water. You can sell them, you know, there's paper you can exchange. So she sold water rights and she was a hustler. And so I saw it from my mom's side. My dad, of course, was still grinding to start his business. So I think both my parents just kind of instilled this kind of DNA of like, just grind and get things done.
Yeah.
Don't make excuses.
Yeah.
And so I had that benefit of watching them as a kid.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think it's a super healthy way to grow up, and
Yeah.
often forgotten, right? Like,
yeah, right.
Right. I know. My kids grew up with a pretty posh, childhood. They didn't have nearly as many requirements, as we did, and things were far more accessible to them. I did try to be a mindful parent, not like empower poor bratty behavior.
But it's easier said than done, right? When they have so many means.
Totally.
At their disposal.
Yeah, and when all the kids in the neighborhood, and school and all that. I think we've done some disservice, over time as America, has most families at least live at kind of a middle class, and above, sort of lifestyle, right? Anyways, man, yeah, that's super, super cool. So let's talk about you start getting into sales. I mean, certainly there's a lot of entrepreneurial lessons there, and granted, I'm a firm believer of, and I think the market has told us that through correcting that founder-led sales and early traction, it is of real importance. Like very few dollars are rolling towards organizations, towards new startups, new ventures that don't have a real product or a real service, that don't have some revenue, and even in some cases that don't have profitability at this point, right? Especially over the last couple of years, that's kind of what's happened in the market, right? Some correction. You still see some early stage speculative capital. At least this year we're seeing more of that flow, but it dried up for like 18 months. There was none of that. So yeah, tell us a little bit about going from your sales days into the first business venture, and how that all kind of came together.
Yeah. So I was, at the time I was in sales, and I had a buddy I was coaching football with. So I coached at the local high school, just on the side as more of a fun hobby thing. And he said, "Hey, we're starting this affiliate marketing company. Do you want to come join?" So I joined that for 2 years, and I got to a point I was working such long hours, putting so much blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I was, I wanted to provide value, right, to my employer. And, but I came to the realization that if I'm going to put in all this time and energy, I want it to be something that I can create and build.
Yeah.
So in 2010, we started our first, it was an affiliate marketing company, called iLead Interactive. And we ran that for 3 years. Affiliate marketing, for those that aren't familiar, you're just a broker, right? So we had an affiliate network that had affiliates that would drive traffic to some web property. And we had the advertisers who would buy the leads or the sales, and we would just make a percentage in the middle. Mm-hmm. So we ran that for about 3 years. And then we met some folks who were doing SEM, search engine marketing, PPC, SEO, things like that. Mm-hmm. And we said, we have the affiliate piece, you have the SEM piece, let's merge. Mm-hmm. So we merged in 2013, started Skyrocket Media, and similar thing, but now we just had more traffic sources, not just affiliate, we had SEM. And we ran that for a few years, and we quickly realized some of our clients were having a hard time dealing with review sites. They felt like their brand was being held ransom by these review sites, where they had to like pay to get rid of reviews and all this stuff. And
reputation management.
Like pay to play type business practices. So we're like, you know what, let's create review sites that we could own, that we could drive our traffic to generate leads that were high intent, high quality. So we created review sites in various industries, quickly led to creating Best Company in 2016, bestcompany.com. And we had Skyrocket Media running parallel to bestcompany.com. Mm-hmm. And Skyrocket Media was, we've been bootstrapped the whole way. Skyrocket Media was profitable because when you're a broker, your margins are slim, but you don't pay till you get paid type thing.
Yeah.
And so we used the profits from Skyrocket to fund Best Company. And then Best Company was, quickly became, was able to sustain itself. We sold Skyrocket in 2021, and then bestcompany.com. We started the essence of bestcompany.com is reviews and reputation. Mm-hmm. And we had a side of the platform that was the software piece for companies to generate reviews, manage their reputation, things like that. Mm-hmm. that quickly met a threshold of features that we said, hey, this can be a standalone product.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we started selling. It used to be called Best Company for Business. And that was the version 1 of what Snowball is today.
Okay.
So we're now on our 3rd company. Snowball's our 3rd company.
Yeah.
But if you kind of zoom way out, my background's been in customer acquisition
Mm-hmm.
and reviews and reputation.
Okay.
And, you put all that together, it's this word of mouth marketing platform is what Snowball is. We can get more into that later.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely want to hear more about that. Okay. So you were able to spin out the IP.
That's right.
From Best Company, rebrand,
That's right.
Snowball. Okay.
That was last September. So we're only a little over a year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Here you are.
Yeah, that's right.
In the early throes, man.
We still own bestcompany.com, but we sold a license to the media rights there. So we're out of the lead generation world. But Snowball is who we are today.
Did Best Company, do they do some awards and stuff like that too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we were part of the Utah Silicon Slopes.
Oh yeah.
Award.
That's where I know the brand from. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. That's
which I think you won an award the year we helped kind of drive things.
Yeah. I don't
so congratulations.
Yeah. I don't want to
put you on the spot.
No, it's cool. It's just it was I don't know. That one was kind of an embarrassing award for me.
Gotcha.
I try really hard to not be an influencer, and it was best influencer, best business influencer of the year. So,
that's awesome.
It was a little bit of an embarrassing, award. I don't like personal accolades. Like I like team accolades.
It's not hanging on the wall in your office.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was honored, but it just was kind of like a little weird for me.
That's awesome.
Anyways, so so let's talk a little bit about, I guess I want to back up, and recognize that, you and I have some parallels in the businesses we built, in the fact that we've kind of gone, especially in this, very tech SaaS, CPG product, or tech hardware market, that is, today, and that is very much, like the Utah tech scene. We've gone a non-traditional route of building, services-based businesses,
right.
And bootstrapping those, right? It's certainly not kind of the norm. And granted, there's some really impressive, B2B SaaS, tech companies that have bootstrapped all the way through, in Utah or of course beyond, right? And I'm always super impressed by, founders that have that commitment and can make that happen. It's certainly not easy, right?
Yeah.
So you tell us a little bit, before we go into Snowball, tell us just kind of a little bit about your journey there with services and bootstrapping, and why did you make choices to do that, and what's been your experience and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So running a service company, it's a grind, because it's more your time, it's more your energy, it's more about process, and how you execute on that process. But we from the beginning were pretty intentional that we wanted to go from being a broker, just brokering a business transaction, to actually owning some real estate. We wanted to own the website. We wanted to have some sort of IP, even though our primary business model was service-based.
Yeah. And
so we kind of had a general roadmap of, okay, let's go from being just a broker agency to owning our own web property. And we were intentional to be, let's parlay our profits into building the next thing. So it wasn't, we could have at any point probably said, this is a great lifestyle business.
Yep.
Let's just leave it at that.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, probably would have had a lot less stress. but we were always kind of looking to, okay, what's the next thing we can build? And so we didn't let our lifestyles get out of control. We try to be really fiscally fit.
Yeah.
And when you're bootstrapped, you kind of have to be. But I mean, one mistake we made that, for those that are listening, we did a partner buyout in 2016. And as a bootstrapped company, it was a partner buyout that we paid through the profits of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So we saddled our company with this debt service through a buyout.
Yep.
If I could go back, I wouldn't have done that.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Because capital is so precious.
Yep.
When you're a bootstrap company.
It is. Yeah.
And especially not only while you're in times of surplus, But when times of famine hit,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You go through a COVID,
Yep.
or you go through for us, it was Google policy changes, algorithm changes. You know, when those things hit, you want to have something in the coffers.
You totally need some cash reserves. When you're bootstrapping, I think there's an important point to kind of point out there when you're talking about bootstrapping, and that is like in services, there are really so many services businesses that are started and or end up being lifestyle businesses, right?
Yeah.
And they're fantastic. There's nothing nothing wrong with that. That's certainly a choice that one can make. It actually was, I made that choice earlier on, and then I made a choice to pivot and become a high growth business, right? And that's kind of again that's a choice you can make along the way. That choice most definitely determines how you're going to manage the cash flows and how you're going to manage your profit, right? And then playing long game versus today's game, right? Like
that's right.
I certainly have a lot of friends that have great lifestyle businesses, and they like they like looking at their profit at the end of the year and listening to the tax man and going and buying a a supercar or that big Super Duty truck or the boat or something. I don't know how you justify that on taxes, right? But all the little lifestyle kind of assets and all that kind of stuff that lifestyle entrepreneurs accumulate. Those of us that decide we're gonna build high growth bootstrapped services businesses, you got to get really methodical about your P&L, and be very. I mean, one of our core values here at Nexus IT is financial stewardship, right? And so everybody in the organization knows we got to be scrappy. We got to be really careful with our resources, and the profits. You rather than getting debt or somebody else's money and to invest into your growth, you invest out of your own pockets, right? And your own comp plan. Like it's you as as shareholders, you make a decision of I'm playing the long game. I'll take a modest salary that covers me and my family, but I'm gonna play for that that long game and a final liquidity event, and I'm gonna build this thing into something far more meaningful than a standard lifestyle business. What a standard lifestyle business might sell for, right? So it's a choice.
One thing you mentioned there that I think is important too is getting the right people in your corner, whether it's your CPA, who's your tax person, your legal, right, as you structure partner agreements or key personnel agreements or buy-sell agreements, whatever it is. So a key legal person, key tax person. One thing that was a huge boon for our business was the R&D tax credit. Because although we were a service business, we were investing in tech and building tech. That's been a huge boon for us the last 5 years. The law recently changed where it hasn't been as good. But,
it's favorable,
but it was huge for us, and that wouldn't have been brought to our table if we didn't have a good tax guy. So get good professionals and mentors. You mentioned this at the start. Right?
Good advisors, is very, very important.
Super
absolutely important. And certainly ask around. More. Look at successful, founders and entrepreneurs, and ask around who their advisors are, because they can make all the difference in the world. If you have a proactive tax advisor who's saying, "Hey, I think we can go after these R&D credits, and I can probably get you $500,000, of capital from your investments last year," and that $500,000 can go a long way to create some growth, right?
Success leaves clues. So go to those who have been successful, and just find out who they use. It's not rocket science, right? Don't try to do it from the ground up to find somebody. Just go to where success.
That's why I'm a firm believer in building as a community.
Totally.
Firm believer in just having strong relationships and network, and good friendships, everywhere. And I mean, one of my personal core values is a rising tide lifts all ships, right? That's great. So, and that's what this podcast is all about, right? It's just about, building as a community, sharing ideas, sharing growth hacks and helping each other along the way. Because, the more we all thrive, the more we thrive individually, as well. All right, well, let's talk about, how you took this, this technology, the IP from Best Company and created Snowball, and tell us a little bit about the organization, the services, the products, what you guys are up to.
Yeah, you bet. So going back to the I mentioned my dad being a general contractor would kind of come full circle is especially in the home services, but referrals, reviews, those things are ubiquitous, right? But we service a lot of home service clients, and home service clients, and I think this applies to most businesses, are really good at what they do in terms of providing the product or service they provide. But everything post customer, nurturing a conversation with each customer, getting referrals from those customers, getting reviews, video testimonials, all the stuff that I call the word of mouth marketing flywheel, most companies are not very good at.
Yeah.
Most companies, all companies want it, but very few companies have mastered how to do it. And so 2 years ago, we were just coming off the heels of Google changing an algorithm and a policy change that almost brought our business to its knees at Best Company. And I had this feeling of like, we're so dependent on Google for our business that I don't have control. I don't control my own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took a step back and said,
Google has crushed a lot of businesses.
Absolutely. They giveth and they taketh away.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we made a lot of money on Google, but we also almost went out of business.
Sure.
And so this question was like, okay, how can we control our own destiny and how can we help other companies control theirs? And so the fact that word of mouth marketing, everybody wants it, few have mastered it. We started to dig in and ask why. Why is that? Why is there that gap? And in the course of discovery, talking to hundreds of reps, talking to hundreds of companies, we realized there's really kind of two driving problems. One is, especially at home service companies, there's a puzzle of point solutions that somebody at the company has to piece together to execute a word of mouth marketing strategy. They have to have their referral platform, reviews platform, reputation platform, and piece all these systems together. And then they have to have somebody to drive that car, right? Most companies don't have the resources nor the domain knowledge to piece that together.
Totally.
So it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. And you think about like the roles
it's
that
a big
company,
gap for, these aren't common skill sets for somebody on a marketing team or a revenue team or something. Yeah. You look at the common roles in a company, you got marketing, sales, customer support. This falls somewhere in between all those. Yeah.
So normally it just doesn't get done. Or for companies that do want to move it forward, they typically say, okay, the best person to ask for a review or referral is the rep or the technician, the person that has a relationship with the customer.
Yeah.
So they provide tools to those folks, but getting those folks to do that, to ask, to follow up, doesn't happen.
Not intrinsic to those type of people. Yeah.
And they're moving on to the next job.
Yeah.
So it just kind of falls flat.
Yeah.
Maybe the top 1% of the reps will do it. And so we said, okay, those are the two problems: puzzle of point solutions. Getting reps to adopt is hard. So we said, let's take the best of what we know. We know customer acquisition. We know reviews and reputation. Let's create a single platform that pulls in all three of those: referrals, reviews, and reputation. That's done for you as an assistant to the rep. So the way it works is, as soon as a company has a customer, Snowball will reach out on their behalf as an assistant to the rep, nurture a conversation over the lifetime of the account to harvest referrals, reviews, video testimonials, all the referral end-to-end tackling, like tracking, payment, all that's handled in the platform.
Yeah.
So it's a single platform done for you for word of mouth.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic idea. It's definitely and that's something we've struggled with here. We I'd say we've done a decent job at some of those things, but we've never really mastered it. And it's always like, oh, you make a push, you say, okay, well, we need to refresh some client testimonials, right? And we need to get some reviews, and we need a few videos. And so you make a push, and somebody from marketing runs a campaign or something, and reaches out to clients, and and you get 5 or you get 10 or 12 or something, kind of video reviews, but then they get stale, and they sit there for 5 years or 8 years or something, right?
Yeah, it's not a system that's kind of running, right?
No, not at all. Yeah. So I think this is really, it makes a lot of sense. It's really smart. Certainly a gap that I see, and particularly, in a bootstrap sort of organization where this isn't a position you're going to hire, right? It's just you're trying to get your marketing resources, to and your reps on the sales team, to
Yeah.
kind of follow up on this kind of stuff. And it's not their core focus. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
What's been a fun byproduct of our platform is it almost acts as like a retention tool for your reps, keeping your reps, because they basically have the power of an assistant, and it's like their personal assistant, even though you're doing this for all the reps. But what that ensures is that when you follow up with their customers, the referrals that come from that are going to go back to that rep. So they're just going to get fed new business. And every rep, like, what top of their list is, if I can get referral business, right, all day, send those to me.
Warm leads. Yeah. I mean, my close ratio is way higher.
Yeah. My customers are happy. They're getting benefit. So there's a rep retention. They love it. Companies love it. And we might not be for every company. Like home services is a primary focus of ours.
Yeah.
But there's a few things we've learned that maybe for those on the
home services, you're talking like solar, windows,
exactly,
roofing. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Anything at your home, you install. But some things that could apply to anybody who's trying to run their own word of mouth marketing engine on their own. A few learnings are the characteristics of a good referral program is, I call it the two bookends. Easy to refer, meaning it's simple to understand, it's easy to send somebody to you, and then it's easy to collect the reward. And then layered on top of those two pillars is ongoing nurturing. So because what you have to do is earn the top of mind. So as soon as they have somebody that comes across their mind to refer, they can easily do it, and they have confidence they're going to get rewarded.
Yeah.
And a few statistics we've spoken with now, going on like 500,000 homeowners. Wow. Is it takes at least 4 touch points before you get the first referral. And then 50% of new referrals come from somebody who's already referred somebody. What those two metrics tell me is it takes time to earn the top of mind, and then you have to earn the confidence before they open up the Rolodex.
Yeah.
So
trust.
Yeah, if you just put those things in place, and there's stuff that goes into it, like tracking and the payment and all that stuff. But if you have those things in place, you have a pretty solid referral program.
So the client, your client that gives a referral, then they're getting some sort of kickback,
That's right.
Sort of, some sort of reward for, providing that referral.
That's right.
Is that whether it closes or not, or it's just, like you gave a lead, we're going to pay you a lead gen fee, basically.
In our platform, the company decides that. So part of the onboard is they set the stages at which they'll pay out the referral commission.
Yeah.
What I tell companies is, if you know your CAC, your target CAC, what you're willing to pay for a customer, just pay that. And pay it when the customer, so if you're buying leads from like an affiliate or clicks off Google, you're paying for the cost here, waiting till the conversion gets to here. So there's an arbitrage gap. Right. With referral programs, there's no arbitrage. You pay out when you get paid. Yeah. So pay them what your target CAC is.
Sure.
They'll be thrilled.
Yeah. Makes total sense. Yeah, absolutely. This is very interesting, Landon. So you built this software product then, there's services behind the product. Yes. So it's tech-enabled services. So you have agents reaching out, to the clients, as you said, following up, getting reviews, getting testimonials, right. Trying to figure out, referrals and all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
And you bootstrapped over the last year.
Yes.
All right. Pretty well had the technology, you built the technology basically through profits of the prior, organization, which, I mean, fascinating, kind of story and way to build it all. I had a question. Sorry, we just got distracted in the studio and I lost my train of thought here, but, I guess tell us, a little bit about, what the organization looks like today and what the game plan is. I know you're down in Pleasant Grove, what does your team look like?
Yeah. So we're, and maybe actually a little bit of history on, so Snowball, the iteration of the product today is about a year old. So we launched actually I take it back, about 18 months now. For the first iteration, it was reviews and reputation. For $499 a month product, hard to sell, hard to like attribute ROI, for the people who are paying for it. And so we had built into the Best Company platform a number of clients who were willing to pay for the software. They're like, oh yeah, go add that on our invoice, right?
Yeah.
So we sold a lot, but we scaled our sales team thinking, okay, we can replicate this for net new customers, right? That aren't built-in clients. And so we scaled our sales team. It was a mistake. And we scaled it up to 7. The people were great. It was just the product wasn't ready. And we came to realization that we had to trim the sales team down to 1, get our product up to snuff. And so we spent a good year going through the referrals piece.
Yeah.
And once we added the referrals piece to the reviews and reputation, so that's what Snowball is today. And that's been around for about 18 months. We're seeing triple-digit year-over-year growth. We're
nice.
North of 7 figures in ARR. We're not profitable.
Yeah.
We're using capital from a license deal that we sold for Best Company and using that capital to fund Snowball right now.
All right.
So we're still in this, it's been an evolution for us.
Scrappy.
Earl. It's been I went from being like profitable from day one with the service businesses to now like a burning capital SaaS business.
Yep.
And so it's been a mind shift for sure.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it has been. But you're still doing it out of capital you've created.
That is correct. It is still bootstrapped.
Yeah,
for sure.
Not somebody else's money that you brought in. Yeah. Which certainly again that's in a SaaS business that's really hard, right? It's really hard to get there.
And it's more scary, right? You don't wake up in the morning and the previous day was profitable.
Yeah.
You wake up the next morning and say, okay, we burned another X amount of dollars yesterday.
Yeah.
How much runway do we have? Yeah. And so it's just a different game.
And in the end, it's in that scenario, it is your future, your livelihood, your assets on the line, right?
Totally right.
It's it's a lot of risk.
It is.
And that's one thing that no discredit to any type of founder or entrepreneur out there. I'm fascinated by all the stories and just deep respect for all the builders out there.
Totally.
But when you've bootstrapped on your own back, right? And all the risk is on you and your family. Yep. It can be a pretty grueling, pretty intense kind of place to be. And I know plenty of bootstrapping entrepreneurs who have put their own personal assets on the line, right? Yeah. Who have needed debt to get to a certain point in the business, and they've leveraged their home equity loan or something like that, right? And I've always kept my business finances and my personal finances separate, but I've seen too many, right, that have taken those risks, and sometimes it doesn't work out, right? And you lose assets, and family goes through some pretty rough times and all that. I mean, that is the DNA of builders, right? A lot of risk, and hopefully there's a lot of reward, but sometimes the reward just doesn't work out.
That's true. It is true.
Well, cool. I can tell you have a highly engaged team, that firmly believe in what you guys are doing, that have reached out to us and chatted with us and engaged on social. And so, I mean, the term, it doesn't really apply to, internal, but I mean, you've got a lot of zombie loyalists, on the team. I can see that, which is, it's the mark of a great venture, great leaders, tell me about the DNA of the team, what are kind of the key people, and, how are you building right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 19 folks at our Pleasant Grove office, and some of them have been with us throughout all 3 companies.
Oh, wow.
So 10 plus years. And,
all right.
They're all so contribution minded. So our culture by design is a contribution culture, one where it's not about who is right. It's about what is right. It's about team. It's about doing everything you can to contribute to move the team forward. The comparisons are in terms of cultures. You got competition culture and cooperation culture.
Yeah.
Both sides of the spectrum. Like, hey, I'm doing everything I can to get an upper leg against my colleague, or I'm doing everything I can not to ruffle feathers. Contribution minded is, and those are the type of people we have.
Yeah.
And so they're all in. It helps to have a product and a problem that you're solving. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And we have that with Snowball. I think there's nothing better than seeing good companies grow from their happy customers. Right. So I think everybody at Snowball feels that, and we can see that and attribute value directly to what we're doing. So great people. They're all different. You have differences, right? Different backgrounds, but that's what makes it so fun and exciting, you know?
Yeah.
And, but they're all the common causes. How can we build the company and move forward?
Yeah. That early stage, particularly, you know, getting the right people on the bus
Huge.
and in the right seats, you know,
That's
and
huge.
yeah, I mean, again, I can tell like, you know, just how dedicated, you know, your
Yeah.
team is. And, you know, several of your team members like sent me notes and were like, Landon's the greatest CEO. He's such a great guy, you know.
I ought to make sure I get them their gift card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Get the names of who said
Give
those.
them their bonus. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's cool. You know, and building that kind of culture, you know, very collaborative and everybody all in on, you know, it's those are the really fun days.
Yeah,
of,
totally.
of a startup,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and I've now and I've had other ventures that I've done, you know, on the side, and I've had a few small little exits, and I've, you know, shuttered some things that, you know,
Yeah.
never worked out. This has been my core gig, you know, for 2.5 decades, you know, 26 years, and with this business, I've been through a lot of phases, right?
Yeah.
You know, 5 figures and 6 and 7 and into 8, and you know,
Yeah.
just the kind of different phases of the business, and the size of the team and the people dynamics, and you know, navigating the culture, you know, as it evolves, because the more people you bring into an organization,
Yeah.
you know, the more the influence of all those people,
Totally.
you know, plays a role in the culture. And you know, sometimes that's you know, very positive, and sometimes
Yeah.
some things get off track, right? And you got to like be very intentional about how are we gonna fix this? How are we gonna get back to, you know, our true selves, you know, that we
Totally.
intend to be
Yep.
as an organization, right?
Yep.
And it becomes much harder, you know, at a mid-stage
Yeah.
organization or a late-stage organization, right? That early stage when you have a small, intimate team, and
Yeah, they've been with you for
Yeah.
years. They
Yeah.
know your quirks, right?
Yeah.
They know they can trust you, and yeah, when you bring on new people, it's harder to instill that, you know.
Yeah, it really is.
That's
when
where
you're
having good
scaling and growing.
leadership, team member, you know, good C-suite, good management.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done for sure.
Yeah. Do you have? Is this a core leadership crew that you kind of, you know, transitioned
That's
from
right.
other businesses? Yeah.
Yeah. So they, like I said, a lot of them have been with us in previous businesses, and you know, one thing that I think is critical is like trust is something that takes time to earn,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes with being honest, being transparent, right? Warts and all, the good, the bad.
Yep.
And so we've always, from day one, like our financials have always been, everybody knows them in the company. There's a net profit sharing pool. When things go well, we celebrate. When things don't go well, we talk about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't hide away from it. So it's like this, there's a lot of autonomy. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of transparency. And so when things hit the fan, you know, people rally versus point fingers.
Yeah.
And so but that's taking time to distill that. And as we scale ourselves for our staffing, I can see how it's going to take, you know, some energy to make sure that gets translated to the new people.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I hear a lot of founders that, you know, they want to be involved in, you know, the first 100 or 200 or 300 hires, right? Like to kind of make sure that all those people fit the culture, right? And you're not, you know, bringing in major detractors and stuff like that, you know.
How many folks do you have here?
We're here in this office, I guess about 55, and then we have some scattered resources in other markets and stuff. A few international resources as well. So and there is that, you know, if you look at like I forget the name of it, but there's these charts on the relationship dynamics within an organization, and there's inflection points at like 50 and at 100, and 50 is one of those big ones where like the quantity of relationships in the organization exponentially increases. You know, and that, you know, has a major kind of effect on how the culture develops. And you know, you talk about trust. That's where, you know, a lot of organizations they forget that fundamentally the best organizations and the best cultures in the world are built on trust. Right. You know, people trust their colleagues, they trust their leaders trust them. Everybody knows, you know, and one of our core values here is absolute ownership, right? And it's an ideal of, it doesn't matter what position you're in or,
Yeah.
where that position is at, you've accepted stewardship for, certain deliverables, certain, roles and duties, and you're absolutely expected to deliver to the T on those, right? And, and if you're going to fall short, you need to be talking with somebody about, why you're going to fall short and, how you're going to fix it, or getting ideas on, hey, I'm lost. I need some help, right? And help, let's figure this out, right?
Yeah,
Being proactive.
It's not like a boss employee. It's like everybody's working towards the same goal and everybody's playing a role. It's just like any team, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a role, and you play the role to your best of your ability and support the other team members.
Yep.
And when that happens, if you have the right product, the right people, and the right incentives, like things can really take off in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, cool. So I guess we got about 10-ish minutes here, to wrap out the hour. Let's talk a little bit about, kind of the main lessons that you've learned, in this journey of bootstrapping and services-based businesses. What have been kind of the big epiphanies you've had along the way?
Yeah. From a high level, like when you go into it, you've got to be patient. You've got to be never too high, never too low, just steady as you go. Like, know there's going to be valleys, know there's going to be highs.
Yeah.
But don't get too caught up in either or.
Yeah.
And just steady, keep moving forward. If your goal is to grow, then just keep moving forward. And there's no substitute for hard work, no substitute for the grind. The phrase of work smarter versus work harder. How about work smarter while you're also working hard, right? Like do both. And failure is not fatal. I think you mentioned like a number of people who have put so much on the line, mortgage their house, and things go south. Failure is not fatal. Like your identity is not tied to your business outcomes.
Yeah.
And so
it's hard for founders to separate that.
It is hard because it becomes your baby. It becomes like part of who you are. But if you can decouple that and know that I'm going to do everything I can to get the best outcome with my business, but if things don't go well, I still have everything else in my life.
Yeah.
And don't allow yourself to put so much stock in your business that it becomes everything.
Yeah.
Because nothing's guaranteed. Things can happen.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have a good foundation on the other side, like, gosh, it can get pretty rocky.
Yeah. If your identity in life is the title, or, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm a business owner, business builder, right? I am whatever, CEO, CRO, COO, whatever, right? If that's the identity, those failures, and I granted, I think in modern society we have a very dysfunctional relationship with the concept of failure.
Yeah, totally.
I like to say that in this life we're given the opportunity to have experiences that are for our enjoyment and edification, and we have experiences that are for our learning and growth, right?
Totally.
And those experiences for our learning and growth are intentional.
Yeah.
Like, I see Corinne, why am I drawing a blank? Corinne Clark.
Yep.
Last week at Silicon Slopes Advisory Board, she shared the quote, there is no comfort in the growth zone and there is no growth in the comfort zone, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's just it. Like, as human beings, and particularly as leaders and entrepreneurs, you don't learn and grow until you get comfortable with making yourself uncomfortable.
Totally. Yep.
And the next level of that skill is getting comfortable with making other people uncomfortable, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Like helping your team around you understand a greater vision of we're serving a greater whole. We're going to do more, than we think we're capable of today.
Yeah.
We're going to reach new heights as, individuals and collectively as a team and an organization. That's like, for me, that's what I'm addicted to in business,
totally.
Of like, getting people unified around a vision of creating something greater than the sum of our parts. Right.
Yeah.
And in the process, us becoming better versions of ourselves. Right. That's what I really, dig about business. So, and that process of like, by the way, I'm philosophically, I've spent the last 15 years or so, like a pretty deep student of Buddhism and Hinduism and,
Yeah.
existentialism as a whole, right? And like that decoupling of the ego, from your identity and all that kind of stuff. It's all part of that, detachment, practices of detachment.
One thing too is like, I think every single person listening to this, of course, and I think every single person on the planet has a special power. Like they have a unique gift. So bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you have the inkling, if you have the itch, it's not for everybody. Like it's some of the best people I know have been a 9-to-5 worker for their whole lives.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. But if you have the itch to be an entrepreneur, bet on yourself.
Yep.
Find a way. There's so much information out there, and there's always a solution to the next gate that's in front of you to pass through that gate. So bet on yourself. Take a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the fact you talked too about staying even keel through the highs and lows. I see a lot of mistakes made there, and I've made those mistakes myself, right? I made those mistakes with our team of like the big wins, just getting, too confident, from the big wins. And you can almost guarantee when you're going to take a gut punch, like on the other side of that.
Will find a way
to right.
remind you.
Right.
Yeah. One thing too, like if somebody's getting started, like if I go back and tell myself 10 years ago, one thing I would have told myself was find the folks like Earl who have been there and been through it and pick their brain on what they learned and what they would do differently.
Yeah.
Because there's a number of mistakes I probably could have avoided.
Totally.
If I would have been more intentional and thorough with my mentors.
Yep.
So find great mentors who have done it. And then when they tell you something, don't be an ask hole where you just ask something and just to ask.
Yeah.
Ask and listen and then say, okay, how can I apply that to my journey?
Yeah.
So you can learn a lot from people who've already done it.
Yeah. The listening is such an important skill, as an entrepreneur. I mean, and it doesn't matter what stage you're at in your journey. There's always people who have, built greater and better and bigger than you have. Totally. Right.
Yep.
And there are always lessons to learn, even if, they haven't built something bigger than you. They solve problems you haven't solved. Exactly right. That being intent enough to listen. And again, backing away from your ego enough to say, I don't know it all. Like, I mean, I'm going to surround myself with a lot of really smart people. And I'm going to be a really good listener, and I'm going to, figure out stuff with them, on the fly. And that's, Landon, the first, 10 years of my entrepreneurial journey, I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood, blue collar family around the trades. I didn't grow up around business builders. Right. And so when I, misguidedly at the age of 23 started a business, right. During the .com boom, thinking, I'm going to be Bill Gates, like I had no idea what I was doing. And the reality is really for those first 10 years, I didn't really get good exposure to good networks and good people. And those first 10 years were a grind. They were tough. Like we took some really, tough, gut punches. I went into bankruptcy, like I got to think, that's probably 5 or 6 years into the business. I went into personal bankruptcy. Well, we had a massive fraud through e-commerce. This is when credit card fraud started to happen, and it's massive fraud that came through. Of product that somebody went in with stolen credit cards. Over like 6 weeks, and different stolen credit cards. Bought a bunch of gear off of our websites. The process was all automated. Of course, the credit cards went through, the drop ship happened from our providers, right, to, the addresses, and then, the credit card charges come back for several $100,000, right? The back charges, that was rough, right? That was rough. So I've been there, in those throes, but, this concept of surrounding yourself with the right people, and the right content, that's, find the right podcast. And, I mean, builders don't always have a ton of time, and most of us are abundance minded. Most of us want to be helpful,
Absolutely.
But time is a real, challenge for all of us.
Yeah.
So be respectful of the time that the people give you.
And when you have good mentors and you get good ideas, you got to go into it knowing you're going to take blows. You're gonna accumulate scars. You're gonna go through hard things.
Yeah.
And if you know that going in, and you detach the ego thing, you say, okay, I'm just gonna weather the storm.
Yeah.
And sometimes growth is the goal. Sometimes survivability is the goal.
Yeah.
And you're just in the middle of the eye of the storm. But if you go into it with like, this is a long game, I'm going to grind. At some point, yeah, if the business is not working, you have to pull the eject, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the meantime, like, grind and expect those body blows. You learn the most from some of those experiences. Like your bankruptcy, I'm sure you learned a lot about yourself, you know, and an experience you probably look back on maybe fondly now. At least for me, the things have been difficult, I look back on fondly, and I grew as a person more in those than many others. So go through those and just keep pushing. The
trials, right? Or where the growth comes. Back to this, I think it's important, celebrate your wins.
Yeah.
But and the way I like to say it is, believe in your story, but don't drink your Kool-Aid. Right.
Yeah, that's great.
Believe in yourself, believe in your team, believe in your capabilities to learn and grow and adapt, because you're like, I promise, it doesn't matter what you start up. You have no idea, like 2 years into the thing, you've learned hundreds or thousands of lessons that you never thought you would have learned. Right. Totally. Oftentimes you go into a venture and you're like, oh yeah, we got this, we got a 5-year business plan. Like this whole thing, like we know exactly what we're going to do, every single step. Right.
Can I tell you a brief story on that?
Yeah.
So we were 2019, we were getting ready to sell our business. We had a buyer who made an offer, and it was a really good offer looking back. And we met at their office in California, and they made the offer, and we decided to decline. Months later, we'd all know what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
COVID. Also, Google did a sweeping policy change that knocked out about $1 million in profit a year of our business overnight.
Ouch.
And so the combination of COVID, the combination of that, we easily could have just focused on, oh, poor us.
Mm-hmm.
We missed a huge opportunity. And yes, we did, right? It reset the clock for us in some ways.
Yeah.
But I look back in and say, if we would have sold, Snowball wouldn't exist today.
Yeah.
Right. And so we've gone through those experiences. Those will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you want to make the best decisions in the moment, but sometimes you're not going to. There's going to be mistakes. And again, just learn and adapt.
But are they mistakes, right? Because
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because you made that decision that led you to building a product that now has led to a new venture, right? Yeah.
We could probably sit here for hours telling war stories about
totally
mistakes we've made, money we've spent that didn't do anything,
Yeah.
Anyway, you just keep going.
My recommendation, my advice is disassociate from the idea of mistakes and failures.
Yeah,
just, like you're going to have experiences. Some are going to work out the way you intended and some aren't. Right. And the ones that don't, you just got to figure out what you're supposed to learn from that. Right. And how you're going to grow and adapt, and how you're going to, we hold tons of, you talked about this, we hold tons of what we call mini retrospectives or retrospectives, right? When things don't work out as we planned, we sit down, with all the applicable stakeholders, and we go, what happened? Right.
Yeah.
What went right? What went wrong? What are we going to do differently next time? Do we need to create a new process or system, or, is there a new workflow or something like that we got to create? Right. What are we, is it behavior? Is it a cultural thing? Right. How are we going to adapt and change so that we don't, we don't create the same unsavory outcome again, right?
Yeah, we call a similar thing in our business. We call it celebrate the defects, because they're opportunities to improve your business. They're screaming at you, opportunities to improve the business. Whereas in some companies, it's like, hey, let's brush them all under the rug, right? Or let's go patch it up and fix it, so nobody talks about it.
We don't want to admit our imperfections.
Like celebrate the defects. That's an opportunity to improve as a business.
Yeah.
And it's not about who made a mistake. It's like, let's just make it right and go.
And that's a world-class organization. Like, world-class organization says, oh yeah, we're not perfect.
Exactly.
Like, we're going to fall on our face, and we're going to use those opportunities to become better. Right.
Exactly.
And culturally, like, you got to create that sort of environment where it's not about slapping wrists. It's not about, pointing fingers, it's about, okay, didn't work out the way we intended. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Having that constructive, that's what's so important, about bringing the stakeholders together in an environment of trust where it isn't about playing the blame game. It's about It's about team. Let's just figure out, what went wrong, and then let's be true with ourselves. Like, no reality distortions. Like, let's own what we, individually and collectively, what we could have done better, and let's figure out how do we fix it in the future.
How you grow.
Yeah, totally. So Landon, we're about out of time. Let's maybe wrap with quick final word of wisdom, and then tell everybody about how they can get a hold of you and your team.
Yeah. So maybe probably just repeating what I mentioned in terms of, failure is not fatal. Bet on yourself. Surround yourself with the right people that you work with, mentors, and then just know that everybody's got a special power. Like just bet on yourself. I think too many people are scared to take a leap. Sometimes you got to take a leap to know what it looks like, beyond that, and know that you can always go back and have a job, find a job, right?
Sure.
You learn so much in being an entrepreneur that makes you a very skilled and sought after employee.
Totally.
And so anyway, you learn those things. But in terms of getting a hold of me, LinkedIn's great, or email Landon at snowball.com. And those are probably the two best ways.
Very cool. And your website?
Website snowball.com.
Okay. So, very cool. All right. Well, Landon, it's been fun to have you on this hour.
It's been awesome.
I appreciate the conversation and all the lessons you've shared. I know it's been valuable for the guests. Thank you for everybody who hung out with us this last hour. This is TechBeat. We're going to sign off. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, thanks.